Just while people continue connecting, just as a quick introduction before I leave the floor to you, Florence, I'm super excited today because on our diversity and inclusion programs, we've got different steps. And as you know, can I? Like, yeah. As you know, we're focusing on 3 themes. One is gender equality, another one is ethnicity and cultures, and the third one is disability, which is not an easy topic, not one we've talked about many times at DESA before. But as a first step in this awareness program and to make everybody a bit more aware of what that is, how people relate to it and what we can do with it in the company, we have a great speaker today, Florence, and I'll let you introduce yourself. We'll talk about resilience and why we're only human after all, because this is the theme of your conference. I'll leave it to you. She'll have half an hour roughly of presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A session, so prepare your questions and you can shoot after the presentation. So over to you, Florence, and so nice to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and on time, which for the challenge today, because I'm coming from London. So I say hello also to the London people. I know they are online. And I'm not going to spend too much time introducing myself because obviously you might understand lots of things during my speech. But I am that person and I am that person. So yeah, you probably already have a question regarding why here and here. So there is no, I know I'm scary. But you are too. I'm scared too. So no bad questions. Feel free to ask all your questions. And there is, no taboo today. Superheroes. Superheroes, they don't exist. I'm sorry, I don't want to ruin your dreams or your fantasies. But because I do love dreams, actually. I think they're perfect fuel to the dynamic of life. They're great. They're great fuel to change and to reinvention dreams. If you can dream it, you can do it. Say Walt Disney, you people work in the entertainment industry, so you know that. And I do believe in dream, but I want you to know that superheroes don't exist, only in cartoons, actually. And I'm saying that because I want you to know that we are all able to bounce back when life is getting tough. And this is something I very much believe in. We're all able to adjust. We're all able to live in a challenging and ever-changing world. We all have the resources of resilience within us. I want you to leave this conference today with a deep heart trust in yourself and in your resources of resilience. This is what matters the most to me today. No matter what I am going to tell you today, I'm not made of a different wood than you. I told you I'm super scary, but I'm also super scared. And if I might seem a bit stronger or more resilient or anything, it might be because I had the chance to explore a bit more my boundaries and to push them ever and ever, and to fail, to step aside and reflect and start all over again. So that was thanks to disability, that was thanks to high-level sports, and that was thanks to life in general. I just want you to be careful with one thing, though. Disabled athletes, and I'm one of them, when they're visible at all, they're often shown as superheroes. And as I told you, superheroes don't exist. They're shown as aces of resilience. And that kind of makes me mad, actually. Because disabled athletes and all hyper-resilient people, they also are fragile individuals. And like any others, actually, we have our flaws, we have our doubts. We tend to not show them too much, but we do. And sometimes we just wear an armor, and especially in the first stages of the resilience journey. It's here for protection, and it's here to rebuild ourselves, but it's not here to stay. And quickly, it does become quite heavy to carry around, and also quite difficult to get rid of. So I'd rather see each one of us being their true selves and not showing that armor around, and showing themselves as they are, which is fragile, which is vulnerable. I do think we are strong because we do embrace our vulnerability. And people usually don't want to show their weaknesses in the workplace. And that's, I think, I think this is a big mistake that we, most of us actually do. And also people usually don't want to show their differences in the workplace. And I also think this is not a good thing. I also think this is not great. And I like this quote of Léa Salamé. I have strived to erase my otherness and asperities. And this is something I've been doing a lot too. And I think this is something most of us are doing quite often. And to close on the superheroes myth, I don't want disabled people, and by extension, people, individual with a difference, I don't want them to feel like they have to be athletes or to be exceptional or to be extraordinary people. I want them to be who they are, their true selves, to belong to the society. If we only show athletes, if we only show people with an extraordinary journey in life, people with a difference will start to believe that they can't belong to the society if they are not that. And this is not the truth. We all belong, we all matter, no matter what our story is, what your individual story is, it does matter. I'll come back to that if you want, and you can ask me lots of questions, actually. So one more. Yeah, I do have learned my resilience skills kind of the hard way as I was taking my first step in life over and over, because I have a hip dysfunction. So that explained the wheelchair in the beginning. I was born with that. But taking your first step in life repeatedly also give you an incredible strength, the strength to believe in the possibility of failing, of getting up, and of starting again. And it's an unusual experience that actually very few adults actually have the chance to live. A child doesn't really ask himself if he's going to fail or not when he starts to learn how to walk. He falls, he gets up, and he starts again and again. And unfortunately, we don't remember that as adults, and we don't remember the innocence with which we accepted failure as children. And that's too bad, I think. So it took me a little bit more than 40 years to actually realize that this idea of failure and success being intertwined, of happiness and unhappiness leaning against each other, of the duality of existence, was a form of guideline, if not a straight one, to my own life and to anyone's life in general. So I took my first step at 2, at 5, at 9, at 18, and again at 40 years old. So that's why I'm here standing today. I learned how to walk because I'm 42, by the way. Like a good Coldplay song, but I'll come back to Coldplay as well. I was born with a congenital hip dysplasia. I told you that already, which was operated on several times, but never properly repaired or completely repaired. I don't think I can be fully repaired any time. I've always belonged to what I do call an in-between body, the one of the walking impaired, neither completely able-bodied nor perfectly handicapped, nor perfectly disabled. And I do insist on complete imperfection because this has been a quest for me. I'm not one of these and one of that. And to be honest, this also has always caused me an identity problem. I've always suffered a lot from not having a story to tell, like the good one. I don't have a roadside car wrecking story. I don't have a tree ski crashing story. My story is only about fate, about destiny. And I don't have a before or an after. I was born with that. I mean, I had like surgeries, and but it's all a continuum journey. It's from walking to not walking at all, to walking again, but imperfectly, with quite some pain. Actually, now I'm working pretty well, and I don't have much pain, so that's pretty cool. but yeah, this, to be fair, is quite an issue with early disabled children. Their drama is invisible, and I also want to spend a moment on that, because I think this question of visibility is a big question in life. The drama of children being disabled from an early age kind of disappear. It fades away in the eyes of others. And media in general, public attention, you, me, all of us, we are more attracted to big dramatic event, to, you know, the big show. We tend to spend less time or to give less attention to people with slow suffering and slow motion evolution. So I think that lots of differences kind of go unnoticed because of that. And I think it could be also a reason for me to tell my story today, because I do think that it could help other people to tell their story as well, because some of you might have a story to tell and they might not want to share it, or might not feel that they can share it. So I hope this will help each one of you to embrace their own story. And I also hope this will help each one of you to embrace or open their heart to their colleagues or people around their stories. I don't have time to give you a complete tour of my childhood, and probably not very interested anyway. But it does kind of illustrate, though, what I mentioned earlier, the duality of life. Yes, I did suffer. I was in and out of hospital far too much, probably. But also I had a happy childhood. I was very much surrounded by a family, loving family, people, parents, brother, sister, siblings. So yeah, I was a pretty happy kid. And at the age of 14, I was walking and running quite normally, apart from the major surgeries I mentioned. I started to feel violent pains. And this is my story, this is the moment. It was in the middle of the gardens, the tulip gardens of the Keukenhof in the Netherlands. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's a beautiful place. And we were strolling the Keukenhof alleys with my family, my mother and brother and sister. And at some point I started to feel these pains. And with my mother, we had to sit and to spend some time to rest. And then the pain kind of went away for a while, so we could resume the trip, the family trip, went back home. But the pain came back, and within a few days, I couldn't actually run, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to the end of my parents' garden by the end of, 6 weeks about. So, yeah, there is a little before and after, but yeah, so it was kind of a turning point in my life when disability kind of became permanent and became a major part of my life. I entered high school with 2 crutches, which is not very cool when you're in high school. And I had a sport exemption, and also I didn't feel well with myself. I had a huge discomfort, huge problem with the gaze of others. I was hurt. I couldn't bear people looking at me. I couldn't bear the idea of what they might be eventually maybe thinking of my difference. I didn't even know what they actually were thinking, but I was scared of what they could be thinking. And fortunately, I did discover wheelchair tennis, and it was a complete accident, to be fair. I was living in a small town in the south of France, and there was only, for people with a disability, there was only tennis and shooting. And I have uncoordinated hands, so you don't want to give me a refill. So I took tennis, and I think it's better for everybody here. I wasn't going in for a career, not at all. I didn't have any ambition regarding competition. I absolutely lack competitive skills. I don't have that. I hate combat. I hate conflict. I hate, all that kind. So I was actually not made to play tennis. But as I said, I took what I could. And I was going in the beginning to tennis because I wanted to exercise. I wanted to get out of my house. I wanted to heal my mind, and I knew sport was the great way to do that. And also, I'm that kind of person, you know, quite intellectual. So if there is something I know I'm not going to be good at, I'm going to challenge myself to do it. And so that's also why I was going into tennis. And quickly, I did understand that sport would be a great way to rediscover myself, to understand myself and to reinvent myself. And I play tennis also, and I have to admit that. But I did play tennis to get admiration from others, and probably because thanks to people admiring me, I thought I would be able to admire myself a little bit. I play tennis also to tell people that they should try to, or they should stop to try to fix me. I was not fixable. I was disable. And from that point, I knew it, although people around me didn't want to admit it, but I knew it. So playing wheelchair tennis was a way for me to tell them, stop. This is a permanent condition, and you and me and everybody's got to put that, you know, into our life, into my life, and take actions. And then no matter what it's going to be, and today it's way better than what it used to be, but you know, it's going to be there. It's going to be there forever. So stop trying to fix myself. And also, I said that already. I played tennis to find some sort of identity, to find who I was. And to be honest, walking was no longer an obsession for me when I started living again, and tennis did give me that impetus. I think I have a slide. Oh yeah, I did tell you that already. Learning how to. In high school, tennis did replace my mandatory physical education course. Then at university, it became a bit more difficult. Paralympic sport, even at the highest level, at that time I was part of, you know, a group around the French national team, so I was already quite good. But this was not recognized, and it could not count into my grading. So I was in Sciences Po. I don't know if maybe some of you do know, especially here in France. But sport was mandatory, but I couldn't take wheelchair tennis as my mandatory sport. And between my first and second year at uni, I had a massive surgery. I laid in bed for 90 days, sorry, not 1990. And then I went through a long rehabilitation process. And first I was in the hospital, then I was in private physio facilities, and then back to the hospital 2 days a week. So I missed the entire first part of my second year at uni, and then I went only when I could. And then in the third year, I did exactly actually what I could. So I was kind of lucky to graduate on time, but that was not thanks to the university. That was thanks to my friend, who've been of wonderful support, and which also make me say that performance and life in general is always something collective, some collective adventure. But I did, as I said, also had the obligation to pass an extra exam to get the grading to compensate the sport. So I was in the hospital a lot of time, couldn't do the mandatory sport, and had to do extra lessons because I was not able to do sports. So that was just how difficult it was to be disabled at university in France by the end of the previous century. Because I did graduate in 1999. A few days later, though, and that's also why I'm always saying life is dual. As I said, my time at university was a bit difficult, and I was on a track to also do l'ENA, which is like the big administration school here, and I was too tired to actually get into the prep-ENA to get the exam. So I decided to step aside for a bit, and luckily I did receive an invitation to play with the national team in the World Team Cup in New York. And this was my very first trip to America. And I did get to play on the legendary court of Flushing Meadow, where the US Open's happening every year. and got to New York, which actually made a very big impression on my young self. I was only 20 years old by the time, so I was like very, young and impressed with this big city. That was just before 2001, so I had to see all the buildings and everything. And after that, I did come back, every year. And I chose the US Open actually in 2010 to finish my career, to complete the circle of my tennis life. So that was always a strong relationship with New York. For 10 years, tennis flew me around the world twice a year. I had the chance, the luck to go to Australia, to the US, to Japan, to Africa, Asia. I went to Korea, I went to South America, in Brazil. I know there are some people of Brazil, so hi, people of Brazil. And I did won some trophies. At my best, I was world number 1 in doubles. I was world number 2 in singles, and I earned 2 bronze medals in Beijing, singles and doubles, at the Paralympics. So yeah, I am proud of all this a little bit. It kind of gave me comfort of what I do and who I am. But for me, it's not like the most important part. And when I look back, the most important thing to me is what I learned along the way. When I look back at this mix of experience, like the trips around the world, the hours I lost in the airport, the victories, the defeats, the fabulous intensity of some matches, but also the deep loneliness of some hotel rooms, especially in Japan. Sorry for people in Japan, but Japan always felt a little bit difficult for us because we're not going to Tokyo, we're going to the deep south part of Japan, and I didn't have, chance to speak much English with people, and it was a very small town as well. So that also was part of being a wheelchair tennis player, being very far away from your home, sometimes in places where you didn't feel like completely at ease because of cultural differences and all that kind of things. But tennis has given me the chance to travel the world, and through the plane's windows, I had the chance also to see different cultures and different approaches of disability and difference. I've been to Africa, working on a development program in Dar es Salaam townships. And yes, down there, I've seen disabled people crawling on the streets, lacking the simplest elementary basic adaptation for their disabilities. Down there, disability rhymes with deformity, and that's a true experience. Disability, some places far from where we live, have a complete different reality to the one we have here. But I also don't want you to think that it's, they're very different than where we live here. It is different in some ways, like especially physical and all the tools and compensations we have. But in the mind, we are not like always aces regarding differences and regarding differences. And the reason I'm so looking forward to Paris 2024 actually is about that. It's not about the Olympics, Paris 2024. It's about the Paralympics. It's not about the sport. I mean, we're all, with a bit of money and some good organization skills, we're all able to organize a great sport event. I'm sure we are going to do perfectly. But now the Olympics and the Paralympics are not about sports anymore. They're about transforming societies. And that's what I expect from Paris 2024. And I said it was kind of a challenge for me to be here on time. I do live in London. So I do come from a country where they had the games in 2012. And they know what I'm talking about right now. They've transformed the society. They've transformed the mindset because of the games. And luckily, in France right now, we don't consider people with a disability as monsters anymore. That's done. That was like the previous century. But when you discuss with people about the place of disability in our society, they have no longer breaks, or they're no longer afraid about that. We can talk, and we're here today to talk about it, so it's already a great thing. So there are no apparent obstacles to inclusion, but that's not completely true. Actually, we still have loads of bias, and the reality of 12 million people here today in France is not like a full inclusion reality. It's not like full access reality. Integration is no longer a problem, but inclusion, we're not completely there. For a reason that is called bias, and maybe I'll come back to bias. I have asked a question about that. I required my question about bias, but bias do cause prejudice. Maybe, yeah, I do have. Yeah, raise awareness about invisible disability. I did talk about that. I don't know where my question about prejudice and bias. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, bias do cause prejudice on a daily basis to 12 million people and 1 billion throughout the world. And I have plenty of examples about that, but I'm ready to discuss that in the Q&A. I'm just going to take a few examples and airport stories to illustrate that right now. One thing that struck me from the very first days of my traveling with Dennis was the treatment we did receive as wheelchair passenger in airport, and the difference from a country to another, and especially from France to the United States. When you board and unboard a plane in Roissy-Charles de Gaulle Airport, this is like an obstacle course, to say the less, and something you need to spend time on. It's something impossible to do on your own. To be fair, you need an airport assistant staff member, at least. When you land in Atlanta, Georgia, someone hands you your wheelchair at the gate of the plane, and they tell you that the underground tube is right there. Just follow the sign and off you go. See you to the next plane. The connecting time in Charles de Gaulle for a disabled passenger, at least 2 hours. Atlanta, 20 minutes. And I've done it in 20 minutes in Atlanta, from one terminal to the other. So that's the difference, you know. In Atlanta, you are that person, like a random passenger. You need assistance, you get it. But if you don't, if you're in a wheelchair, but you don't need specific assistance, you just connect from a plane to the other like any other business person, family person, parents, whoever you are. Again, it was not just years ago. I have another story, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but it was back in October 2019. I was back in a wheelchair because I just had surgery and I couldn't walk much. And with my husband, we needed to go to spend some time in Los Angeles for a business trip. So if we go, Paris Charles de Gaulle, Terminal 1, the crappiest, the old one, the non-friendly, wheelchair-friendly one. And I have to say that I'm lucky enough to have a strong husband, 30-ish years old, very much able to assist me when it's needed, you know. Worst case scenario, but when it comes to traveling, I'm the expert of the team. So normally we team pretty good in airports. But anyway, we did start to have problem at the bottom of the first traveler tour going to the boarding gates. And this was because it was not possible to go there if you don't have a staff member with you. It's impossible. Just told them, you know, I have my husband. If I need assistance, he can help me. It's just the rule. It's a basic rule. You can't go there. And we were, just wanting to go have some lunch. The two of us spent some time. We're 2 hours ahead of the time, so wanted to spend some time together. But it's just not possible. You have to have a third party with you all the time. If you want to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom with your third party, not your partner. It's kind of awkward. You want a sandwich, you got to ask the third party. You want a magazine, you got to ask. And I'm talking about the third party because it's not always a same-sex person, actually. So if I want to go to the bathroom, I'm going with the big guy, with the tall guy, but he's not like my partner, he's not my husband. I don't even go to bathrooms with my husband, actually. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even though you are able to take a travelator, because I'm a good wheelchair person, I can take travelator myself. So if you know how to do it, if you're sure you can do it, if you're wanting to sign a release of responsibility form, you just can't do it because the rule says you can't. And that means, a very old person, senior person can do it because the rule says they can, although they may not be able to walk properly. But if you're in a wheelchair, you can't because you're an object. You're not able to think for yourself. You're your child, sorry. So yeah, that's the difficulty. On a practical level, yeah, it does mean that you have no privacy, of course. And just to finish, to close on Charles de Gaulle, because I have lots of bad memories there, at the boarding the same time. But this is not just an isolated day. It happened like many times. I'm just talking about that one day, but it did happen many times before. I'm sitting in my wheelchair next to the counter where they are discussing the boarding, sorry. And they start to talk about, all the problems they will have during the boarding. And at some point, there's this guy asking to his colleague, "Where's the wheelchair?" I'm right here, actually, I'm right here. He's not asking where's the wheelchair to know where's the actual wheelchair. He's asking to know who I am, who is the lady in a wheelchair. But the question is, where's the wheelchair? And I can hear him. So I did say, okay, the wheelchair's here, because that's why I'm a wheelchair, not a person. So I told him, I'm the wheelchair. And so he started to ask me about my needs, but not asking me, actually asking my husband, because I can't talk. I can't say what I need. The question was, do you need assistance to get on the plane? No, I don't. Does she need assistance to go on the plane? Well, just ask her. She can talk. She speaks the same language as you. So yeah, I'm a thing. I'm an object, and I'm a kid, and that's how we do consider people with disability here. So that's disabled people kind of tend to be treated, as if they were not humans or grown up, and that's also a problem. Just jumping on a few things. Yeah, that's something I want to mention. Yeah, we are all human. That's why I did put this title to the conference. We do like the same music. We do like the same films. I mean, I hope we do like the same music, because I'm a diehard Coldplay fan. I already mentioned that. We are parents. We're football fan. We are, who you guys are. Actually, we're the same. We're just human, actually. And yeah, because we are all human, and I did mention that. We are all human music lovers. I think we are here. I want to conclude this first part about telling you about my resilient fuel. Sorry, I can't speak English anymore when I'm a bit tired. This actually comes from my grandfather. He was a pilot in World War II, and he was phrasing that this way: beyond the clouds, the sun always shines. And this has been, this is an absolute astronomical truth. And it's also a life truth for me. It's been an anchor, and it has helped me along my journey very much, this phrase: beyond the cloud, the sun always shines. And you got to, really believe in that when you learn how to walk several times in your life. And, when you go through recovery process, and I was discussing that with a friend earlier today, actually, she's going through a recovery process. And I said, you know what, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. Someday it's 2 steps backward, 1 step forward. But at the end of the process, you will realize that you've moved on and that you're feeling better. And it's the same in high level sports. It's a lot of doubts. It's a lot of, I mentioned spending lonely times in Japan, being away from my family for major family events. And sometimes you have to keep the faith in what you're doing. You need to love the journey you're going through, and you need to find confidence in yourself. And this is not always my best quality. So this sentence has always helped me a lot. Beyond the cloud, the sun always shines. And no matter what the tunnel is, the light always come back at the end. And yeah, darkness always turn into light. I told you I was going to put some Coldplay in. So yeah, let the sadness pass. Don't repress it. Accept it as it is and hold on until the light comes. To meet happiness is also to accept this duality of life, that one can be sad and happy at the same time. And happy is just maybe sometimes happy, not happy, sad. I would say today that I also was lucky enough to encounter disability. I mentioned lots of difficult stuff about disability, but I was also very lucky to encounter disability, because I did, what I did. I am who I am, also thanks to what I've been going through. It has shaped me as I am. It has fueled my resilience to embrace life fully today. And it has allowed me to live extraordinary experiences and to meet extraordinary people. My other is not a hero, because I don't have much heroes in life, but there's this great tennis player called Yannick Noah. You might know him as a singer, but he was a tennis player before. And Yannick Noah used to say that you need to love the journey, please do. No path in life is always happy, always peaceful. Some days are harder than others, but by the end of the storm, there's a golden sky. And because you're people of music, you will recognize that. With hope in your heart, you'll never walk alone. I know, or maybe if you're not a music fan, you're a football fan, so you know where it does come from. Thank you very much, and I'm very much happy. It's very, it's actually troubling. I'm very happy to discuss all the points I've just mentioned in the Q&A. So please feel free to ask any question you want. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was great. Maybe we'll open for questions. I'll move around with the microphone.
Thanks a lot for spending the afternoon with us. I was just wondering, as you play professionally, you encounter a lot of other disabled athletes as you travel the world. What kind of support system do you all give each other, or does one exist, and how does it help?
From like peer to peer, you're talking?
Peer to peer.
Yeah, it does exist very much, because wheelchair tennis and wheelchair sport in general are or have been non-professional sport for a long time, lacking money, lacking, all the tools. There are plenty of part of my path that I didn't mention. One is about moving out of France and heading to Montreal to find wheelchair accessible, heated, high quality tennis courts, tennis venues, because here in Paris, by the time, and again, I'm talking about like years ago, but things have changed a little bit, but not that much. But back in the years, I was playing the National Training Center here in Paris, in Roland Garros, when was not wheelchair accessible. And if you wanted to have like good tennis venues close by an international airport, you needed to live in Paris to pay for your tennis court. It was super expensive, and living in Paris was super expensive, and I could not afford that. So that was one of the main reasons I moved to Montreal. Plus, I love the city. Plus, I got a great coach. We became great friends. So that was a wonderful experience. But it did start with that. And so to compensate with the lack of money, we were spending loads of time together, sharing hotel rooms. I talk about loneliness in Japan, but that was also the occasion of wonderful karaoke nights. a bit weird again, but yeah, that's what it was. We spent time together, traveling together, sharing planes, sharing hotel rooms, road trips together, stuff like that. And because of that and this support we were giving each other, people were becoming friends. And I mentioned being in Montreal when I was traveling back to Europe for competitions. I couldn't go back to my parents because they were living in south of France. So every time I would stop in Holland at my friend Jeske, and staying with her parents. And Jeske and me at that time, I was like 3 in the world. She was 4. We would play each other like 15 times a year for semifinals, sometimes finals. And we did play each other in the bronze medal match in Beijing. And that's quite a weird experience, actually, because she was not only my best friend on tour, she was also, you know, my best opponent. And this person I was sharing all my hotel room, all my road trip with, planes and everything. So that would add like some difficulty to the match, just not thinking about, yeah, she's a great friend. But yeah, we did give each other loads of support. And that was also a way to discover that disability is having a very different meaning in lots of different countries. And I was talking about Holland at the moment. I did mention the US, but in Holland, Jeske, for example, she was disabled from a very, very young age too. She's always been going to school like a regular school. She's in a wheelchair. Never she went to any special institution for disabled children. She was going to school in her wheelchair from a young age, not with an ambulance or anything else. She was integrated in the sport classes. And, you know, for having pretty much the same age, we've been going through very, very different experience regarding school, regarding inclusion from a very young age. So that's also what wheelchair tennis, you know, gave me the possibility to compare what's going on in different countries. Or you can ask like that, and I can rephrase the question if you want.
Yeah, because people.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. You're a
Pleasure.
great inspiration. I was wondering if you had like advices for people who are not handicapped. I don't know if there's a word or is not like unpolarized, but I feel sometimes people want to do good or are too empathic or and talk to handicapped people like really like in a childish way, or make it feel like really deep. And I was wondering if you had like tips or advice to kind of educate ourselves for just acting like you guys are human and, you know, like us. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Okay.
And thank you for asking that question, because then I'm going to retake the question I wanted Naomi to ask a little bit later about misconceptions and bias. So I'm going to go on that one quite quickly. To make a big picture first, we all start with a lot of misconceptions about, you know, disability, thinking that people with disability are all in a wheelchair. People with disability are more often sick. They're going to call in sick in the workplace. They're not going to be, you know, here. They're not going to do the same job. They're not going to do as good as someone else, or they need help. I don't know. I mean, we do have like plenty of misconception regarding disability. People with disability can't be parents. I heard that. I'm a young mother. I have a 7 years old twins. Twin girls. But when I was a young parent and when I was pregnant, I was using the wheelchair because obviously I was huge having twins. And, you know, being in a wheelchair with a big tummy is kind of an awkward experience when it comes to how people look at you in the streets. So yeah, lots of misconception. But luckily, little by little, we are fighting this misconception. We are educating people, and slowly they're going under. So that's pretty good. But then came bias. And bias are actual misconception we have integrated. They're misconception that we actually live in because we've been educating us away, thinking things for a long time, and we believe that this is how things are done. And we're converting what we think into how we act without even wondering if this is the right way to do things. And that's why I was mentioning this experience in Paris Charles de Gaulle. This is not because I hate Aéroport de Paris, which I do, but it doesn't come, into the picture right now. It's because those people opposing the rule to me, they have made a rule based on bias. They have made a rule thinking that whole people with a disability in wheelchair to protect themselves need a special rule forbidding them to take and travel by themselves. And because of that, there is a general rule which doesn't take into account what people actually can do or cannot do. And there is this thing that you can't ask a person if he or she has needs and he is able to express their needs. So what I would say, and bias, we all have them. I mean, just don't bother, don't go think, I'm the worst person on earth because I do think this or that. We all have them. We all have them when it comes to something that is not us, that we don't know as good as what we are, or who we are. We have bias regarding gender equality. That's why we are sending the girls to dance and not to football in the first intention. We have bias. I do have bias when it comes to other kind of disabilities because I don't know them as good or as well as my own disability or wheelchair in general. But when it comes to people like deaf people, for example, I don't know them well enough to not act sometimes with bias. So we all have them. But the question is now, because bias are difficult to fight because it's very much integrated. Most time people don't even realize they have them. And most time they have the best intentions in the world when they're doing things. And it's difficult to explain them they're doing wrong. So my advice is pretty simple. Try to recognize, embrace bias. Try to open your mind to see beyond what you believe is easy thinking, and try to always ask people actually what they need, what they want, and try just not to treat people a way you wouldn't want to be treated yourself. That's it. But then also, and that's my third advice, don't be afraid of making mistakes. It doesn't matter. What matters is to not try. But if you're going to someone, for example, helping people on the streets, some people want, some people hate that. But you can't pretend not seeing. If you've seen someone, you think that person might need help, just don't help her or him without asking. But then if you ask and that person say, oh, no, and maybe rudely sometimes, oh, no, I don't need help. Well, don't bother. You've asked. You've done the right choice. You've done the right choice. You've seen a situation and you've addressed the situation. So it's never going to be wrong. Was that the good response, the good answer? Yeah.
A lot of thank you for sharing and being inspired. I know you have been after your tennis career in companies, and so I wanted to know, if you have maybe something you want to share or some tips on the disability in the company.
Yeah, that's a whole part I didn't talk much about. I've been working with the ADECO group, so in human resources environment. I've been working with French business school called Audencia in Nantes. And now I'm a volunteer and I'm a vice president, very important person at the French Tennis Federation, and at Tennis Europe as well. So I've been in different size companies. I've been observing what we are doing on about disability. And to be fair, the question we just had, this is the same. Like all companies are facing the same question all the time, because we're all humans after all. And it always comes to, lately I was doing a talk about change. And the main message was, no matter how big and coming from external sources, the change is, it always comes to what you can do as an individual. And regarding disability, is the same thing. Addressing the whole question is a big company thing. But in the end, what matters is just, what we can do on an individual basis, what I can do for you, what I can do to make you feel welcome, to express your difference. And you've mentioned having 3 different issues. I think was gender equality and generation. Yeah. In the end, it's all the same anyway. It's about being able to express who you are and making room for your colleague, your co-workers, people you're working with, expressing who they truly are. And that actually starts with knowing who you truly are, which is a long life process too. I don't have like a big, huge tips for companies. My main experience is, in the end, it's a very individual thing. I mean, companies can do so much with, having the right HR standards, recruiting processes, making sure that all the workplace is accessible to all sort of disability, all sort of diversity. But in the end, if individuals don't do what it takes to actually talk to each other, to actually help each other out, to actually show, friendship and benevolence to each other, that's just not going to work. So it's a very much individual thing. And that's something you're taking from a company to another, and that's something you're taking from here to your other circles, of life. If you're playing tennis, or if you're, I'm mentioning that because my position as the vice president of the Tennis Federation now is not like it's a volunteering position. It's not like a job, an actual job. My actual job is that. But on a daily basis, I'm educating old people, to be fair, because the other board members, they're all like, 60-ish. I'm kind of the youngest. But yeah, I'm teaching them on a daily basis that it's not just about, putting things in place to put people in boxes. It's about just opening ourselves to difference. And that's going to make a major change for tennis in general, not just for wheelchair tennis player. That's going to make a big difference, because I want you, all of you, no matter where you come from, feeling welcome in the Tennis Federation. And that starts with, people with a disability feeling welcome in the Tennis Federation. So it's all like a big thing, it's all like a big pot. If we can change a tiny thing somewhere, then you're going to change a big thing somewhere else. It's like the butterfly effect.
Another question in the room or online? Yes?
Yes, so thank you for sharing your experience. I'm wondering if you felt a particular moment or event where you felt the need to share your experience, and when?
Yeah, it took me, as I said, it took me 40 years. Lots of personal things came into action at the same time. It's probably too long to actually share that, but probably I was also at the end of a part of my journey. I thought the end of my first journey was when I went on the Beijing podium. And then I realized that, you know, it was probably the end of a chapter, but not like the end of the story. And 10 years later, I started to reflect on what I had been through, and this kind of came back with also some anxiety issues and some stuff I was going through at the same time. And happens that I have a niece who is now 17 years old, and for the last 5 years she's been a diabetic, relying on insulin, and it's very much invisible. So this also started to question herself. She was a teen, she's still a teen, and she has, like, you know, all those issues regarding her body, her future. And I could see myself, actually, I'm the godmother of this young girl, so that's pretty funny, of life as well. And so I thought that I needed to share my experience with her. I wrote a book, not just for her, for my daughters as well, because they will never know who I was otherwise. So I needed to share that in a book. And also I thought it's the right time to actually share my experience a bit more, like a bit more widely. So that's how it all happened. But it was kind of, you know, this moment in life where you're like, yeah, I think now I'm able to face what I have not wanted to face before. I said, show your flaws, show your vulnerability, but I would never have talked about anxiety and stuff like that before. And that's now something I do quite easily. And the book is just out. I'm super proud. But it's only in French, I'm sorry.
Only in French for now.
Only in French for now, but yeah, did I show you? Yeah, that's my resilience tool. Yeah, this one. No, but I show this one because this one is very important to me. I'm taking a lot of Saint-Exupéry. So yeah, if you have one book, I have this because I got asked to share my resilience stuff. So bronze medal coming from Saint-Exupéry philosophy. And you probably can't see here, but there are two books that matters to me. One is called L'Impossible Limite from Professor Mimoun, and it's about recovering and rehabilitation and more on a medical point of view. And the other one is called The Artist Way. And some of you might know that because you're art people or creative people. The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. But I do recommend that. It's to find your path to creativity. And it works for everybody, no matter what kind of creativity is yours. And I've been introduced to that book by the sister of Chris Martin, I have to say that, who is a wonderful artist beside being the sister of her brother, but it's a great book. It's a great book, and I do encourage all of you to take it. So no, that's my own book. This is my baby.
Thank you so much, Florence, for sharing. I think all of us will think about all the takeaways we're taking from your testimonial. Just to make the link with the journey we were on, because you were talking about a journey. I completely agree, and we'll build on what you said. It's not about the company and the HR processes, not only, but it's very much about individual questioning, awareness, being curious, educating ourselves. And this is exactly what we are on the mission to do with all of you. We are very lucky to have lots of colleagues involved in the different D&I streams who are helping to be aware, be more aware and educated. Like having you today is a big step for all of us, but I'm really hoping for the next conference here or the next talk here to have some people from Deezer feeling safe enough to share about their own experiences, because this is ultimately where we want to go. So you're opening a door, and I'm hoping lots of people will come behind you and share their experiences and talk about their needs and things they've experienced and how we can get richer on that. I want to thank Marie Bleu from Gloria, who helped us organize this conference. It was great. And also Marie-Pierre, Marina, who's probably online in Brazil, and all the people who are involved in the different streams, because we're moving step by step. It's going to be an individual journey for the 550 plus of us, but we are making progress. So thanks again, Florence, for coming. You can come anytime with the Coldplay group as well if you can, because everybody will be happy to meet them as well. But thanks.
As I said, next time it's going to be me singing the Coldplay song.
You're recorded.
Yeah, I will.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.